At precisely 5:30 a.m., a sharp knock jolted me awake, my heart racing from the abrupt intrusion. The sun was just beginning to creep over the tidy row of homes on Oakridge Lane, casting a faint glow. I stumbled to the front door in mismatched pajamas, a heavy unease settling in my chest. When I swung it open, there stood Mrs. Eleanor Whitmore, president of our neighborhood's HOA, her crisp blazer and perfectly styled hair radiating authority. Her cold gaze swept over my disheveled appearance with clear disdain. "Young man," she said sharply, "you need to cancel this unauthorized event you're planning." Her tone was final, no room for discussion. I blinked, sleep still clouding my mind. Event? Cancel. Her words didn't make sense. Then it hit me amid the homecoming celebration for my father, James Carter, a decorated war veteran returning home after nearly a year overseas. I'd spent weeks organizing a modest backyard gathering, complete with a barbecue and a small tribute to honor him. My mother had passed away the previous year, and Dad's one request before coming home was to celebrate both his return and her memory with our neighbors. How could that possibly violate HOA rules? "We have a right to host a gathering," I said, my voice edged with defiance. "He served our country. He was injured. We're honoring him." Eleanor let out a soft, condescending huff. "There are rules, young man. No event can exceed noise limits, involve banners that disrupt the neighborhood's aesthetic, or draw large crowds. You're in violation suggests more than a small group, violating Section 12C. The board voted to deny your exemption request." I froze. Exemption? No one had told me I needed one. "It's not a public party," I countered. "It's a family event, maybe 20 guests." She tapped a piece of paper with a manicured nail. 20 guests constitute a disturbance per our covenants. You'd know if you'd read them. With that, she turned sharply and strode away, leaving me seething on the doorstep. Dad was due home in less than 72 hours. Invitations were out, relatives were driving in from 3 states, and now the HOA was trying to shut us down. It felt surreal, like a bad joke, but Eleanor's stern expression said otherwise. My phone buzzed with texts from cousins who'd gotten odd calls from some HOA woman, fishing for details about the event. She was digging for leverage, and my determination grew. Why was the HOA so intent on crushing a simple tribute? I looked at the manicured lawns around me, each one trimmed to HOA perfection, and thought of Dad's stories of overcoming far worse overseas. If he could face combat, I could handle this. By noon, I drove my truck to the HOA office, a small brick building near the entrance to Oakridge Lane, close to a murky retention pond we called the Goose Pond. Rumors swirled that the water was unsafe, no fish lived there, and geese avoided it. The HOA had dodged fixing it for years, blaming zoning laws, but I suspected they were hiding something. Dad always said to look for weaknesses when you smelled foul play, and this pond felt like one. Inside, Eleanor sat behind her desk, her hair in a tight bun. 3 board members hovered over a table stacked with papers, the air thick with stale coffee. "I'm here for clarification," I said, keeping my tone even. "You can't just cancel my father's homecoming." Eleanor's gaze was predatory. "We're enforcing standards." She slid a packet across the table, the dreaded HOA bylaws. "Read Section 12C. Events with over 10 vehicles, excessive noise, or non-compliant decorations need approval. Your public invites for a hero's welcome with music and barbecue are a red flag. We protect this neighborhood from chaos." Her words stung. My father wounded in service was a red flag? I clenched my fists. "It's one afternoon. I'll manage parking, keep the music low, use tasteful decorations." "Isn't that enough?" A board member, a wiry man with a gray beard, spoke up. "We voted. It's unanimous." "The event's too big." He avoided my eyes. I swallowed hard, realizing they'd already closed ranks. "Is there an appeal process?" I pressed. Eleanor cut in. "Appeals take 30 days. Your father arrived sooner." She dismissed me with a tilt of her chin. I left the office shaking with anger. My phone pinged a text from my Aunt Clara, driving in from Nevada. She'd made a patriotic banner for Dad, red and blue with his name in bold. I pictured Eleanor's reaction to it and knew it'd spark a fight, but I wasn't backing down. By evening, I decided to hold the event anyway, fines be damned. If the HOA pushed, I'd call the local news. A story about a veteran's canceled homecoming might shame them into relenting. It was risk media could backfire, but I was desperate. An email from my neighbor Luis popped up. Heard the HOA's targeting your dad's party. That's wrong. I'm in, let me know how to help. Relief hit me. Maybe I had allies. The next morning I checked the backyard, measuring space for chairs and inspecting the fence. A chilling thought struck. The HOA might nitpick code violations to derail us. Sure enough, my phone rung an unknown number. This is Karen from Oak Ridge Building Inspection. We got a tip about unauthorized structures in your backyard. We need to schedule a VY sit. My stomach dropped. They were already weaponizing red tape. There's nothing unauthorized, I said, voice unsteady. Who tipped you off? A pause. It was anonymous. Luis came over with tools and we fixed loose deck boards and touched up the fence, racing to meet every possible code. It felt absurd, scrubbing our property to host a veteran's welcome. The inspector arrived that afternoon, a short woman in a hard hat, with Eleanor trailing her like she owned my yard. They poked around, snapping photos. Your deck's half an inch too close to the property line, the inspector said. I protested it had been legal when I bought the house. I'll note your objection, she said. But the HOA decides. They left, whispering plans. That night, I called a local news station, pitching the story of an HOA blocking a veteran's homecoming. The reporter was curious but cautious. We get lots of HOA complaints, but a veteran angle could work. I'll check with my producer. I didn't bank on it, newsrooms are busy, but I hoped. The next day, Luis and I picked Dad up at the airport. He stepped off the plane in his army jacket, tanned and limping from an old injury, but his posture was strong. I hugged him tightly. Son, I'm home, he said, voice thick. At home, relatives waited with flags and smiles. Dad's eyes lit up, but I fidgeted, dreading the HOA talk. When he noticed, I spilled everything: Eleanor's threats, the fines, the inspection. He put a hand on my shoulder. Son, I face worse than bureaucrats. We'll sort this out. His calm fueled me. We set the party for Saturday. By Thursday, tension hung over the neighborhood. Rumors spread that the HOA might block guests at the gate. Aunt Clara hung her banner on the porch, its bright letters spelling "Welcome Home, Sergeant Carter." A violation notice arrived the next day, due law 100 daily fine. Dad shook his head. I fought for freedom, and they're upset about my name. Friday brought a call from the reporter. My producer loves it. We might send a crew Saturday. You still doing it? I confirmed, heart soaring. I kept it secret, even from Dad, hoping the cameras would deter Eleanor. That morning, she appeared at my door with 3 board members and a burly security guard. This event violates our covenants, she declared, gesturing to the guard. He'll ensure no unauthorized guests enter. My relatives muttered angrily. Dad stepped beside me. I fought for the right to gather, he said firmly. I'm not asking for special treatment, just fairness. Then a news van pulled up, a reporter and cameraman stepping out. Eleanor's eyes widened. The reporter, Lisa Grant, approached with a microphone. We're here to cover a dispute between the HOA and a veteran's family. Sir, what's happening? I explained, voice steady. My dad's back from a war zone. We planned a small party, but the HOA's threatening fines and shutdowns. The camera turned to Dad. It's tough, he said, feeling unwelcome in your own home. Lisa faced Eleanor. Why block a veteran's homecoming? Eleanor forced a smile. We have rules for safety and aesthetics. Large events need permits. The crowd grew, neighbors drawn by the cameras. Some greeted Dad, others aired HOA grievances. They fined me for a yard gnome, one shouted. Lisa pressed Eleanor, who stumbled. It's not about blocking, it's compliance. An older resident, Mr. Ellis, a Navy vet, stepped up. I've lived here 20 years. The HOA's bullied us too long. This is the last straw. Cheers erupted. Eleanor clutched her clipboard, composure cracking. Another news van arrived, escalating the scene. A lawyer, Richard Holt, stormed up, demanding the event's shutdown. You're violating enforceable covenants, he barked. Dad countered, no judge would back an HOA stopping a veteran's welcome with all these witnesses. Lisa's camera caught Holt's hesitation. Are you suing a veteran for a barbecue? She asked live. The crowd chanted. Let him be. Holt muttered, no comment, and retreated with Eleanor. Guests poured into the yard, setting up food and decorations. Laughter mixed with the grill's sizzle. Then a board member, Martha Klein, approached quietly, handing me a file. "Eleanor's twisted our rules for a real estate deal," she whispered. "She's hiding contamination in the goose pond to keep the neighborhood perfect for investors." The file held emails and test results, chemicals in the pond soil, ignored by Eleanor. Dad frowned. "If this affects the water table, it's a health risk." We held off exposing it, focusing on the party. Dad mingled, blushing at toasts. Eleanor lurked across the street, ducking cameras. By evening, a reporter asked Dad about the pond rumors. He stayed vague. "Transparency matters, but today's about freedom." The next day, social media exploded with clips of Eleanor's meltdown. Neighbors demanded a town hall. Dad and I sent Martha's file to Lisa, who ran a follow-up on the pond's contamination. At the packed town hall, Eleanor faced a furious crowd. "Why hide the toxic pond?" one asked. Martha presented the file, accusing Eleanor of prioritizing investors over safety. Eleanor stammered, then resigned, fleeing as the board unraveled. Dad spoke calmly. "This isn't revenge, it's about honesty." An interim committee formed, fines were paused, and the pond's cleanup began. Clara's banner stayed up, and we planned a block party for a fresh start. Dad finally relaxed, sharing stories at a quiet family dinner. The pond's cleanup progressed, funded partly by HOA penalties. One evening we sat on the porch, watching geese return to the cleaner pond. "Conflicts everywhere," Dad said, "but standing up matters." My phone chirped. Lisa's station nominated Dad for a Local Heroes Award. He smiled, grateful. Oakridge Lane was no longer just uniform lawns, it was a community that found its voice, sparked by one family's fight for a veteran's welcome.